It ain't just wide open, it's WFO.
Hey, this is Jeff Rice, Diepenhock from up by Savannah, Georgia. I just wanted to let you guys know that WFO rules.
Joe, this is Jay Bird, truck driver from Big Bear, California.
WFO rocks.
Oh, don't forget, WFO rules the airwaves.
WFO!
And we are now joined by our third place finisher, driver number 78, Auto Owners Insurance Toyota for Furniture Row Racing, Martin Truex Jr. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Please raise your hand if you have one. Go right over here to the right.
Dustin Albino, front stretch to your right, Martin. Out of the last 5 races here, you've led 100 laps more than in 4 of them. So do you feel like tracks owe you one?
If there's one that does, it's here. I can promise you that. Man, I don't know. I just don't know what we got to do to win one of these things. I mean, it's it's awful frustrating, to come here and be so good and lead so many laps and then just find, every single way possible that, just things don't work out for us. It's pretty frustrating, but, at the same time, it feels good to run that good. And we recovered well and, did what we came here to do, which was move on to the next round. So, I wish we would have been in victory lane right now, but, in a few days, I guess the pain will go away a little bit, and we'll be able to go to the Roval and have some fun with no pressure.
We'll go right here in the middle.
Martin, you kind of sailed through the first 2 stages and then that tire mishap. How do you kind of reconcile that with your team, and what do you guys do to just kind of put it in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, you just got to move on from it. I mean, you can't beat a dead horse, and if you start yelling and screaming at them, they're just going to do worse till the next stop. So, for me, I let Cole and the guys in the pit handle it. I just do all I can do behind the wheel to get back to the front. I mean, that's all you can do. So, like I said, it was a good recovery. They, their stops after that were all good, and we had a new front changer this week, and thought he did a really good job. Aside from the penalty, we were probably the fastest we've been on pit road in a while. So that's really encouraging for for the playoffs and going down the stretch here when you need to win races off pit road and things like that. So we'll take a mistake here when it doesn't count and hope they get it cleaned up, and we'll move forward and do really just have fast, clean pit stops.
Are there any additional questions for Martin?
Thank you.
Nope, all set. Thank you. We're now joined by our second place finisher, driver of the number 4 Jimmy John's new 9-grain wheat sub Ford for Stewart Haas Racing, Kevin Harvick. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand and we will get to you. Go ahead.
Not many cautions. Did you feel like you might have been gaining some ground there at the end, just ran out of time?
We were definitely gaining a little bit of ground, but we didn't have enough time to get all the way to him. But our guys did a great job, rebounding after last weekend and doing what we had to do this week to put ourselves in a good position for next week. So solid night.
Given last week, given how you've run here, does it feel, even though it's not the win, still feel pretty good the way you finished?
Yeah, I think we've been top 5, 6 out of the last 8, so 7 out of the last 9 now. It's been a solid racetrack for us, but it's just not – we just haven't had the winning car. The Gibbs cars have been tough to beat here over the last few years, and we just hadn't had the speed that they have had. This time, we had speed and we're able to race right there with them, and so we've been hit or miss here, and tonight was a good night to be good.
Are there any additional questions for Kevin? None in the press box. All right, Kevin. Thank you. Gibbs, owner of our race-winning team, and Adam Stevens, crew chief of our race-winning team. Congratulations, gentlemen. We will go ahead and open it up for questions. Please raise your hand, and we will get to you. We'll go right here to Bob.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Adam, there's been some talk in here about whether the Big Three was still the Big Three, since only one of you had won in the last 6 races. But you're 1, 2, 3 today. Does does that mean anything?
Man, I don't know. 6 races. I feel like you're kind of not giving us much margin there. 6 races. I don't know. We went 36 races not too long ago between wins. But, you know, I still think the cream rises to the top. This time of year, though, a lot of guys make a lot of advancements in their programs. You know, we saw the Penske cars with speed, certainly. The 9 car with speed, the 42. There's plenty of guys that are getting better at the right time. But, you know, the 3 best still seem to be the big 3. Seemed like we were racing those guys a lot, and without the 78 having an issue there, he would have been right up in the mix of it. He got back there anyway. So, you know, 6 races isn't a long time, and probably not a stretch of our best tracks in between those 6 races. But we're coming up to some good ones.
We'll go over to your left to Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, Kicking the Tires.net and PRN for both of you. But Adam, first, on TV you talked about being part of Kyle's legacy. Well, they put crew chiefs in the Hall of Fame too. Have you thought about that as part of your future?
No, not at all. No. The criteria.
He's got my vote.
That was going to be my question to you, Coach. What do you think?
The criteria for that are almost impossible to achieve anymore. You know, the rate that we run at is tough to sustain for a super duper long period of time. You know, and it's as much fun as it is. It takes a toll on you. So. I'm going to take all I can get between now and then, and I've got quite a few more years and enjoy it. But, geez, I think it would take a lot to even make that part of the conversation.
And I think what happened today, if I could chip in with Adam, he and Kyle just, you know, we weren't that good early. And race after race, what happens is they keep going in the race. They get better and better and better. And I think that's, you know, a lot of that's attributed to Adam, and certainly he and Kyle have a chemistry there and can talk things over and make good changes. Just really appreciate everybody on our race team, pit crews, everybody back home, JD, and everybody in the front office. And all it takes, and of course our sponsor, Mars, is just awesome. Been with us now, and they've been in the sport about 20 years, and it's great to have them. And of course, as we all know, this sport's different. You got to have a great sponsor to be able to race these cars. For them at Interstate Batteries and Toyota, it's just a big deal for us.
And Coach, last week at Vegas, you had a pep talk with Kyle on pit road, and y'all were breaking down the performance and how the team has gotten better. How obviously it worked, whatever that talk was, and I guess just the focus on the team, but. For your leadership, how does it make you feel when you know that you've got a team like this that can go out and compete for wins and championships?
Yeah, actually, I do very little. It's Adam, and he works with the team. And Adam's really, the way I look at the NFL, I was the coach. I was hands-on, made it happen, had the coaching staff with me. It's so close over here to being the exact same thing. Adam and his 12 guys go to the racetrack, and they start – you know, they run the whole weekend. He has to make all the tough calls, and so it's a huge responsibility, really. Big deal for us, and it's for the crew chiefs, to be quite truthful. Our sponsors know the crew chiefs. They know how important it is, and we all know in the sport, because everybody sees that, between driver and crew chief, it's a big deal, and the chemistry is a big deal. So anyway, we're thrilled to have the crew chiefs we got, and Adam has just been outstanding from the very first time we put him together with Kyle.
We'll stay to the left and go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Adam, got a couple questions. One, what is it like from the pit box to watch Kyle and Brad Keselowski race for the lead like they were?
A little bit nerve-wracking. You know, they're not going to give each other too much room. You expect maybe a little bit more room between 2 other guys. So it makes you nervous, but they race each other with respect. And, you know, that whole deal is probably a little bit blown out of proportion compared to what it's really like on the racetrack. And they were probably a little bit better in the short run, and we were certainly better in the long run. So it was certainly a matter of time before we got around them. But you never know when the caution's going to come out either. So he was pressing as hard as he could to keep us behind him, and Kyle was pressing as hard as he could to get around him. So if we did get a caution, we could at least lead him down pit road. But I was more worried that we were going to get racing each other, and then the 4 was going to put us 3 wide and pass us both. It was what my main concern was.
You talk about cautions. Only 3 cautions tonight, 1 for an incident on the track. Spring race only had 6. Spring Martinsville race only had 4. Isn't this supposed to be short track racing, beating and banging? Why so few cautions? And was the Roval next week a factor why people were conservative?
Oh, man, there's a lot of ground to cover in those questions. But I think what you see is the skill of the drivers and the teams and the ability to run more than one lane here. You know, you can run, gosh, at least 3 or 4 different lines, and if you have a little bit of speed, you can get around somebody. You can go in the corner 2 wide and come out 2 wide. So, you know, it takes a mistake to really get into somebody. And, you know, when you get in the later laps, you see guys lean on each other a little more. You don't really see that in the middle of a race in general. But, you know, this place is just so racy, and the tires fall off, and it rewards taking care of your tires, and it's a lot of fun for the drivers and fun for the teams. And I think even without the beating and banging, you see really good racing on the racetrack, you know, for the lead or even all through the field. So now as far as the Roval, you know, guys were probably trying to really maximize their days today because there's going to be a lot of people leave there disappointed next week. And, you know, it could be people that have a good car and wheel hop at one time or hit a curb too hard one time or it's going to be hard to find a place to pass. It was hard on tires at the test. And, I mean, the reasons to go down there and have a bad day are it's pretty long. But we haven't raced there yet, so we don't really know what we're up against. So, it's going to be fun to be a part of and fun to watch and fun to not really matter where we have to finish.
Are there any additional questions for Coach or Adam? Dustin?
And one for Joe. You've seen Kyle through the years. How has he managed his emotions in situations, you know, like running with Brad, and how has he progressed to the point of having this success in 50 wins, and how he's grown from your perspective?
I think what happens with young guys, you know, as they go and grow and experience, I think probably one of the greatest learning things that we can have is a bad experience. And so you have a few of those. And I would say that Kyle's had a few and probably learns from them. And I also think there's several other things in his life. Sam, Braxton, but I think also the fact that he's a car owner, I think that adds something to it. You know, he has to think as an owner lots of times, and so I think that changes things too. And so I think it's just kind of a maturing process. The one thing I'll say about Kyle, though, and Adam will, I think, testify to this, I've seen it in sports, the 2 I've been in, when he puts the helmet on Sunday, I've never seen him change. You know, he is, if it's something in front of him, he's bent to go get it. And he's got that in him. And it's amazing to me. I think all of us as fans, we admire that in all sports. You see it in all sports. Some guys, not many, but some guys really, they really want it.
We'll come right down here in the center.
Kind of following up on that for either one of you, with all the tension and pressure that's involved in this championship chase and the playoffs, how much easier will the week ahead be, knowing that you guys are locked into the next round, than it might have been if you were going to this thing that Harvick said he's terrified of, not knowing, you know, how it was going to come out?
I don't know if I've seen more talk about something than the Roval, really. They've been talking about this thing. And I will say this. I think we wrecked 4 cars, didn't we, in practice getting ready for it. So I finally said, nobody else goes over there. I'm tired of wrecking stuff. But, no, I think it's going to be exciting. Hey, for the fans, it's going to be unknown, like Adam says. I don't think we know till you get the cars out there and really get going. I think from Adam's standpoint, he can speak to that about how he feels about going, knowing he's in. But we got 2 other cars that are, you know, on the bottom right now. And so from their standpoint, have at it, So it's going to be kind of a wild deal. And Daniel, too, he'll be trying to get everything he can get because it's big for him and his career.
I also kind of meant from the Kyle standpoint, knowing he can relax a little bit and might not be wound as tight this week as he might otherwise be.
Yeah, it's probably a better question for him, but, we just don't have any expectation other than to go down there and win. And that frees you up, probably make some more aggressive moves. And we're going to need that track to keep Kyle to have one at every single track that we go to because this is a new one for us. So, we want to go there and we want to try to win. The whole goal was to get locked out this weekend, and we did that. Felt like we could have done that just by scoring some decent points, but we know we did it with a win. So we're going to go there and try our best to get another trophy.
We'll go down to Bob.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. I have two for Coach. The first, what would be your advice to Denny and Eric going into next week? Denny seemed pretty frustrated after tonight, one of his best tracks, and he struggled.
I agree. And when he got spun there, I don't know how much that meant to the car or whatever, but it's been a very tough year for Denny. I think for both of them, I think obviously Eric's first go around on this, I think he'll just have at it. And I think Denny, what we got to do is throw caution to the wind. And that'll be two cars that I think will just be, we got a lot of ground to make up. And so I think they'll be very aggressive.
And just any insight on when we might know or when you might tell us what your team's 2019 lineup will be?
Yeah, it's so hard this time of year, and there's a lot goes into it. There's a lot of things in contracts and everything else about what you can and can't do. And it's just one of those things that it's hard for us. I'm anxious too. I would like to be able to announce it, but there's still a lot up in the air with it.
Are there any final questions? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. We're now joined by the winner of the Federated Auto Parts 400, Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 M&M's Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions, and we'll start to the left with Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, Kicking the Tires.net, PRN. When you were in here the last time, you said you wanted a 60-point lead and a win going into the Roval. You got the win, so how do you feel now?
Feels pretty good. I think I said one or the other, right? Yeah, okay. Obviously, just it's really good to have the win. To be able to go into next week. I think anytime you can automatically punch your ticket to the next round, that just makes it even better. Being able to come here in Richmond in the fall. Whoever said I didn't win here in the fall race, I got you. We won here now. So, finally, again, I didn't know what was eluding us from being able to win here in the fall, but we were able to get it done tonight. So, it was a handful out there, that's for sure. Car wasn't great early, but once we got some adjustments to it, it really woke up, and car kind of came to us, continuation all night long of the sun going down and just getting better and better, so that was good.
We'll go over to Bob and then to Jeff.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. I had two. The first, when you were in here last, you were also asked kind of whether the big three, it kind of lost maybe a little bit of ground to everybody. You all finished 1, 2, 3 today. Is that a sign?
That's pretty good for Truex to get back to where he got to, considering he had that penalty late. So he did finish third, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I knew Harvick was kind of closing in on us there at the end. I ran really hard trying to pass Brad, racing with Brad, and being able to finally get by him. And you could see how hard we ran by how fast he dropped, So, our car was really, really good in the long run. I think Harvick maybe – the run before we kind of drove away from everybody. So I just I think it was a factor of me running real hard, pushing real hard, that Harvick was able to close in on us there at the end. My stuff was really, really used up. I lost tons of grip the last 10 laps of the race, so I was just trying to hang on.
And when you were challenging Brad, they kept telling you on the radio to run your race, run your pace. Is that possible in that situation?
Yes, kind of. There were a couple of times where I was to his inside, and whether I was being held a little tight or I was sliding up, whatever, we were getting kind of close. And in those moments, you kind of tense up, and car slides, and anytime the car slides, you're putting heat in the tires and you're putting heat into everything. So, you try to take a step back and kind of regroup, let everything cool down again, and go re-attack. And I was able to do that about twice. Second time, it finally paid off when he was starting to drop. So, you know, I spent a lot of time racing hard with him, and you know, good to be able to do that cleanly on my part. And then when you spend 15, 20 laps trying to pass the guy, and you can pass him, and you can get run into right as soon as you pass him, it's kind of like, come on, man, like really? But oh well.
We'll go here in the front to Jeff, and then right here in the middle.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. I had two questions also. I guess the first was going to be your hand out the window at him. That I assume is what you're referring to.
Yeah, that was just, come on, man.
Yeah, okay. I was looking for an interpretation there. Second of all, after
Come
Vegas,
on, man.
after Vegas, you're on pit road and you're like, oh man, something's way off. You know, we're missing stuff. So it seemed like, you know, you'd said over the last month, like you guys didn't really have it. Does what happened here tonight fix that, or is that an issue like of a 1.5 mile track that's separate?
Right. Yeah, that's separate. You know, we're just kind of missing a little something at the 1.5 mile places. So, you know, Richmond, we were good here in the spring, and we're good here again tonight. So, whatever it is that makes us have that ability and gives us that chance to be able to go race for a win like that is pretty good. Feels pretty good. But tonight's way different than 1.5 miles. So, I don't know if it's a good thing or an indifferent thing. We go to a Roval next week and not 1.5 miles. So we'll see what happens with that. But as far as the next round or even the round after that, you know, there's some 1.5 miles that are coming up that we know we need to get better for.
With as much pressure as there is in the playoff and as much emotion as you put into everything, how much does winning tonight make the week ahead easier for you?
It certainly takes a bunch of relief. It would have if we would have not won the race, but been ahead by 60 whatever points of the guys that were on the cutoff. We would have been fine as well too. You know, we could have gone into the Roval and raced our way however we wanted to race. So either way you looked at it, if you were a guy who was in the bottom, you know, if we would have had trouble last week more than we did, and if we would have had trouble again tonight and been kind of at the cutoff line, then obviously it would make for a very, very stressful week and a stressful Roval. But right now it feels pretty good, so we can go in there with no worries and try to go and attack that place and see what we can get out of there.
Will you be able to drive it differently because you don't need to win?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you want to win. I think you can drive it differently because you can go force the issue sometimes and try to get a win or get a good finish versus just kind of having to be stressed about it the whole day and on your toes about it the whole day and you know, worrisome.
All right, we'll go over here to the right and then in the back.
Adam Cheek, VCU's Commonwealth Times. Kyle, what does it mean to get your 50th win, milestone win at Richmond, and finally win in the fall and have it be kind of a milestone win in your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of milestones. The 50th is kind of a number at this point, you know, but obviously it's a great number to have, and it's a great achievement. There's a lot of guys that we've been tying recently, like Tony Stewart and tonight Ned Jarrett, I think, and Fred Lorenzen, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, guys like that have made the sport, obviously, and have been in the Hall of Fame and have done great things. So hopefully that I can continue to evolve and continue to do some cool things in being able to win. But you know, winning at Richmond is winning anywhere is cool because you know that first of all you get to celebrate with your team, you get to take home a cool trophy, and then you know, this one in the fall time is more special because it's late in the season. You know, I was I guess known for not winning later in the season years ago, and so it feels good to be able to get some wins later in the years now. And also to in the playoffs, it moves you to the next round automatically, so that's kind of a big deal. And just kind of what those wins are accredited for nowadays.
Go to the back and then up in the press box. We have a few questions as well.
Don Jeffries, CSPN Media. You have 92 wins in Xfinity, 51 in trucks, and 50 in the Cup Series. That's 193 total. Have you ever thought about or, you know, made 200 wins in all three major series a goal? And if you did hit that mark, what would it mean to you?
Yeah, I think actually somebody asked me about that probably in Richmond. When was that? Like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Somebody brought it up because we were, I don't know, closing in on like 140 or something like that. But yeah, obviously it's a goal of mine. It's just a number. There's no correlation or comparison to the Richard Petty 200 wins. It's completely different eras. It's just a number. So, when I was growing up, I was taught to have goals and to go strive and to reach those goals, achieve those goals, and it's the number that I set out there. And so it's obviously achievable. Maybe I didn't set it high enough, but people would probably look at me with two eyes crossed if I said 250 or 300. But that's obviously maybe achievable. I don't know. I don't know if I can get through the 200s that fast. But, certainly looking forward to that moment and what that means to me in my career. It's going to be really, really cool to get there, and I'm looking forward to it.
We'll go ahead and take those questions in the press box.
Yeah, ChrisKnightCatchmans.com. Kyle, after the race, Harvick said he was terrified of going to the Roval next week, even though he's in a good points position. Is that a fair consensus among the drivers? I mean, even though that you're locked into the next round, how do you feel about the Roval in particular?
I think everybody's just nervous because it's just it's very slick, and I don't know why it's so slick. Like when we go to Sonoma doesn't feel this bad. When you go to the Roval, though, you're just on edge the entire time. It feels like ice. You're never comfortable. And the problem with it is too, like if you get off course, like you're into a tire barrier, you're into a wall, like you're hitting someone or something right away. There's no runoff. Like at Sonoma, you can go off course and turn one, you can run off through the dirt, whatever. There is none of that at Charlotte. So that's why I think everybody's so worrisome about it, is just the tightness of the course. But it's the same for all of us. I think a lot of guys will have different mentalities going in this week and what they expect and what they are looking to achieve. So we'll go in there with a good mindset and a good attitude about it, and hopefully it'll come out well for us.
All right, we've got another question down here to the right.
Mike Massey from Stretch.com. I got another cool stat for you, Kyle. You tied Rusty Wallace for the most wins here at the 3/4 of a mile layout.
Okay.
It was a half mile before that. But
yeah, Richard Petty's got those, right?
Yeah, he's got the.
How many of those were on dirt?
I'm not sure. I need to look that up.
Yeah,
He's got 13 total. So how does that feel to tie Rusty Wallace, one of the best short track drivers ever?
Yeah.
Make your mark on this track.
Yeah, thanks. That's pretty cool. I remember watching Rusty for years, and him and Jeff Gordon kind of going at it here. When was that? 95, 98, maybe something like that. So it was pretty fun to see those days and to know just how good Jeff was here, how good Rusty was here. I don't think Mark won here very much, but Mark I always thought was a really good short track racer and good here too. So just really neat to keep kind of achieving goals and achieving things, milestones, if you will, that other drivers have done, and it just is an honor for me because I would like to go down once upon a time as as one of the best in the sport, and so I think the numbers aren't gonna lie about that.
We're gonna go over here to Dustin on your left.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. 3 cautions tonight. Were you surprised by that? And did that help you?
It didn't help my back, but it helped everything else about the night. We were good on the long runs for about 60 or 70 laps. After that, we kind of dropped off. We weren't very good after 70. So when it was between 70 and 100 that we had to go, that was kind of stressful. But overall, I think, I like long runs here. The restarts were kind of crazy, kind of hectic. If you have a lot of late race restarts, they get even crazier. Fortunately, by that point of the race, we were out front, so we can kind of set the tone and set how hard we wanted to run based off what our competition was doing up front, like Brad at the end. But when I was back 11th or 9th or something like that, I mean, I ran with the 88 and the 42 and the 3 and somebody else, and you would have thought we were all racing to save our lives. I mean, it was nuts, and so it was pretty crazy how hard those guys were running, and that was the worst long run we had because I burned my stuff up racing against those guys early in the run, and that's kind of what you got to be mindful about when you're here at Richmond.
We'll come back over here. Oh, sorry, Dustin, go ahead.
the car was set up for a long run here based off what's happened, and this is cautions here, as opposed to like some other places where maybe you look more to short run or strong restart type of thing?
Yeah, Richmond, you always have to set up for long runs. Anywhere you go, you always kind of want to be set up for long runs, but you want to have speed in the short run as well too. And yesterday in first practice, we had good short run speed and good long run speed in first practice, and then the second practice, we didn't have very good short run speed, but then we kind of hung on a little bit better than some other guys. So we kind of knew then that we weren't going to worry too much about the short run until the end of the race. You know, you're going to have to start adjusting on your car and adjusting on your air pressures to try to get your car faster for the end to be able to maintain lap times of the guys that were fast on the short run, like the two.
We'll go back over here to the middle, and we'll finish up with Jeff and Kelly.
Jonathan Panda here with WVCW Sports. Kyle, earlier on you said you were losing tons of grip during the race. I want to know, what were those moments like?
It was tough. It just, you know, when you're on, how do you explain this? When you're on new tires, you feel like you've got the absolute best cleats out there if you're playing football or soccer or whatever, right? Like they're dug in, they feel good, you can juke, you can move anywhere you want to move. And then as the tires get older and they wear, you might as well put flip-flops on. You know, it's just terrible. So you're sliding all over the place and trying to figure out what you're going to do, and it's like flip-flops on a baseball diamond, like dirt. So that's kind of what the best interpretation I can come up with anyways. It's late. But, you know, that it's just you're sliding. So you're trying to control that slide all the time. If you slide too much, you're going to heat up those tires even more. You're going to wear the rubber off the tire even more. You're going to build the air pressure, and it's going to become more of like a bowling ball on a lane. You know, it's just not going to grip. It's just going to slide the entire time. So that's kind of the things that you always work on here at Richmond.
We'll go to Jeff and finish up with Kelly.
I totally missed this about your back. I mean, you said you wanted 3 leave afterwards, and you mentioned your back now. Did you hurt it or something, or are you just getting old, or what?
Yeah, just the getting old, yes. The long runs here, man, it's just you're so on edge around this racetrack that you never relax. Like you're always tensed up, and you're always like scrunched and holding onto the wheel, and your legs are holding onto the steering column and everything else, you know. So you just don't ever have a moment to kind of chill, except under the caution. So with the long runs tonight, it just puts a lot of pressure on your back, especially pushing on the brake pedal, you know, like you push on your left leg and it comes from your seat, like you're pushing yourself back into the seat. And so it was just kind of a pressure point that made my back sore.
Kelly?
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. So, Kyle, you don't have to worry about the Roval with the playoffs, but Adam Stevens mentioned it. Now you go there, and he's worried about making sure you guys can win to keep that streak alive of having won everywhere. And you mentioned in May that they threw that at you now in terms of active track. So
I've won there.
So do you go there now relaxed, or are you going to get there next weekend and be, you know, kind of up on the wheel to get that done?
If I'm ever up on the wheel and balls to the wall, I'm going to end up crashed. So especially at the Roval, knowing how treacherous that place is, I'm going to get myself in trouble. So I'm going to be all juked up, ready to go, and then when I get there, I'm going to take a melatonin and just drive Miss Daisy. So I don't know. It's Charlotte Motor Speedway last I checked, so I have victories from Charlotte Motor Speedway, but it would certainly be nice to win at the Roval, and in our position I feel like we got our best chance to be able to go out there and attack that race and try to get a win. I don't know, probably.
And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Kyle. Congratulations.
This is WFO Radio.